About 70% of all Butlers now live in America. Our family members have been an integral part of the country since the 1500s. Many came seeking exile from religious and political persecution. Many came seeking a life of economic stability and prosperity. Many came merely seeking adventure. Whatever the reason, Butlers have made an indelible mark on the country. While it would be virtually impossible to discuss every Butler's contribution to the country, a few early Butlers stand out and should be mentioned because they shaped the country for better or worse. Richard Butler from County Tipperary is believed to be the first Butler to step foot on American soil. He was a page boy on Raleigh's expedition to Virginia, led by Captain Philip Amadas and Master Arthur Barlow in 1584. The trip was authorized and financed by another Butler family member, Queen Elizabeth I. According to Richard's written account, his expedition landed near present-day Oracoco Island in July of 1584. After anchoring, they went ashore in boats to view and take possession of the land for Queen Elizabeth. After about 6 weeks of exploring, he returned to England. Approximately 3 years after Richard, the second Butler reached America in 1587. Thomas Butler was part of a group of 150 men, women, and children tasked with colonizing the city of Raleigh in the Chesapeake Bay area. It's unknown whether Thomas was related to Richard Butler, but he was likely enticed on the trip by Sir Walter Raleigh's generous promise of a minimum of 500 acres of land in the New World. Unfortunately, this group became known as the Lost Colony because it disappeared without explanation. There's never been enough archaeological evidence to solve the mystery. Captain Nathaniel Butler made several critical contributions to both Bermuda and the land that would become America. Nathaniel was an English privateer that served as the third governor of Bermuda. He built many structures that can still be seen there today, including the State House, shown here in St. George's Parish, which is the oldest surviving English settlement in the New World. After leaving Bermuda, Nathaniel made his way to Jamestown, Virginia, where he did something that forever changed the American way of life. In 1621, he introduced the potato to North America. That's right. A Butler is responsible for boiled potatoes, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, fried potatoes, all forms of potatoes. After a short stay in Jamestown, Nathaniel wrote a report titled The Unmasked Face of Our Colony in Virginia as it was in the winter of the year 1622. He returned to England to present it to the king. It was an important work chronicling the poor condition of the colony and changed England's approach to its management. Nathaniel eventually made his way back to the New World to become Admiral of the Providence Island Colony. Pierce Butler was born in County Carlow, Ireland, the third son of Sir Richard Butler, 5th Baronet of Clagrigan. As the third son, he wasn't going to inherit his father's estate or title, so he joined the British Army at the age of 11. By age 14, he was a full lieutenant and commanded troops against the French in North America. He went to South Carolina as a member of the British Army, but resigned in 1773 to join the American cause. In 1779, the governor of South Carolina asked Pierce to reorganize the state's defenses. He was given the rank of brigadier general, but he preferred major because that was his highest combat rank. As a former royal officer, he was targeted by the British, but he was able to avoid capture. Beyond his military role, he donated his own cash and supplies to help the American forces and worked on behalf of prisoners of war. After the Revolutionary War, Pierce became a politician. He was elected to the United States Senate from South Carolina for 3 terms. As a businessman, he became one of the wealthiest men in the United States. He owned many rice and cotton plantations in South Carolina and other states, including Butler Island and St. Simon's Island in Georgia. On September 17, 1787, Pierce Butler, representing the state of South Carolina, became a founding father of America when he signed the United States Constitution at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was one of only 39 men that had that honor. Revolutionary War hero, founding father of the country, United States Senator, one of the wealthiest men in America at that time. Not a bad resume. But, like many of the founding fathers from the South, Pierce was a slave owner. At one point, he was the largest slave owner in coastal Georgia with as many as 1,000 slaves. Some historians say that he was privately opposed to slavery, in the international slave trade in particular, but the fact is, he supported slavery because it was important to the Southern economy. In 1815, British Admiral George Cockburn sailed into the area near Pierce's Georgia plantations, and he offered freedom to those enslaved. 138 accepted the offer, and the British Navy transported them to Nova Scotia. They were assigned the Butler surname for convenience, whether that was their actual surname or not. Most of these Butlers remained in Nova Scotia, but due to limited economic opportunities, discrimination, and a harsh climate, some left for Sierra Leone, Liberia, Trinidad, and Tobago. Pierce died in 1822 and left his estate to his two grandsons, John Meese and Pierce Butler Meese, the sons of his oldest daughter Sarah, on the condition that they changed their surname to Butler, which they did. In 1859, the grandson that changed his name to Pierce M. Butler sold 436 men, women, and children in Georgia to settle his debts. Known as the Weeping Time, it was one of the largest sales of enslaved persons in U.S. history. William Orlando Butler, the son of Percival, who was one of the fighting Butlers, was born in Jessamine County, Kentucky, and graduated from Transylvania University. When the War of 1812 broke out, he volunteered as a private to fight against the British and Indians. During the Battle of the Thames, he volunteered to set a barn on fire that was occupied by the enemy. When he succeeded, he was promoted to the rank of colonel for his bravery. He went on to further distinguish himself during the Battle of New Orleans, where he assisted Andrew Jackson and was second in command to Zachary Taylor during the Battle of Monterey. After the war, he practiced law in Carrollton, Kentucky, served in the Kentucky House of Representatives, and then as a member of the United States House of Representatives from 1839 to 1843. In 1848, William was the Democratic candidate for Vice President of the United States, with Lewis Cass at the top of the ticket. In the general election, he and Cass were defeated by Whig candidates Zachary Taylor and Millard Fillmore. Later in his career, William turned down the governorship of the Nebraska Territory and tried to defuse the secession crisis as part of the Peace Conference of 1861. In his spare time, he authored a volume of poetry entitled The Boatman's Horn and Other Poems. Butler County, Iowa, Butler County, Missouri, Butler, Missouri, and Bates County, General Butler State Resort Park, and Butler, Georgia are all named after William Orlando Butler. Andrew Butler, shown here, was the second Butler to serve as a U.S. Senator from South Carolina and a chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. In 1854, he authored the Kansas-Nebraska Act with Stephen Douglas, a senator from Illinois. The act was designed to allow the country to expand west and created the territories of Kansas and Nebraska. But there was a catch. In order to gain Southern support, it repealed the Compromise of 1820 that outlawed slavery in those territories by allowing the residents of Kansas and Nebraska the right to choose whether or not they wanted slavery. The act was passed by the 33rd United States Congress and signed into law by President Franklin Pierce. So Butler helped establish what eventually became the states of Kansas and Nebraska. When he died, it was written that Senator Andrew Pickens Butler was the most unique and original intellect in the Senate. His face, though not handsome, was sturdily expressive, with massive features and troubled, streaming silvery hair that looked as though it had been contending with the blasts of winter. His power as a speaker stood acknowledged in the admiration of both houses. Like all men of impetuous impulse, he was very restless, one moment pacing to and fro the space behind the speaker's desk, another giving the grasp of his hand to some younger senator, the next taking active part in the debates of the day. The moment a question was submitted to him, his mind instinctively applied all the great principles. Butler County, Kansas is named for Andrew Butler. His brother William Butler and his nephew Matthew Butler also served in the United States Congress representing South Carolina. Ovid Butler was an attorney, newspaper publisher, and abolitionist. His main contribution was Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. Ovid was a devout Christian and wanted to establish a university for the Christian movement. His vision became Northwestern Christian University in 1855. After serving as the head of the school's board of directors and its chancellor, it was renamed Butler University in 1877. It was the first university in Indiana and the third in the United States to admit both men and women. Butlers fought on both sides of the Civil War. Benjamin Butler from Lowell, Massachusetts, was a major general in the Union Army. He was also a lawyer, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, a governor of Massachusetts, and even ran for president in 1884. As a lawyer, he had the legal idea to free fugitive slaves by declaring them contraband of war in service of military objectives. This idea eventually led to emancipation and the end of slavery as official war goals. As a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, He was the House's lead manager in the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. As the chairman of the House Committee on Reconstruction, he authored the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 and was a co-author of the Civil Rights Act of 1875. Despite his many accomplishments, Benjamin was a controversial figure in some circles. When the Union captured New Orleans during the Civil War, the city was occupied under his command. The ladies of New Orleans protested his occupation of their city by emptying chamber pots from upper floor windows onto the heads of Union soldiers as they walked through the streets. Benjamin responded by announcing that any woman found insulting Union troops would be considered a prostitute and arrested. This didn't sit particularly well with the citizens there, so they made and sold chamber pots with his picture on the bottom to show their displeasure. Smedley Butler, also known as Old Gimlet Eye, was a major general in the United States Marine Corps. Over the course of 34 years, he fought in the Mexican Revolution, World War I, and was involved in battles in the Philippines, China, Central America, and the Caribbean. At the time of his death in 1940, he was the most decorated Marine in U.S. history. He received 16 medals, 5 of them for heroism. Smedley was one of only 19 men to receive the Medal of Honor twice. He's the only Marine to ever receive the Brevet Medal and 2 Medals of Honor, all for separate actions. Towards the end of his life, he wrote a book titled War is a Racket that criticized the motives and consequences of war, including those he fought in.